Hey guys, it's springtime out here in Colorado. Summer's right around the corner, and that means that I'll be able to do a lot more work on the van here because it's kind of hard to do when it's super cold and snowy all the time out. But I'm gonna try to get this thing kind of like usable by this fall. That's my goal. And after I paint this last side and finish redoing the roof, I'm gonna go ahead and start doing a bunch of engine like preventative maintenance, like new water pump, hoses, radiator, probably just new AC components because they don't even cost that much on this vehicle. And also new timing chain because that's behind the water pump. And I'm just gonna reseal everything like front and rear main seals. Also do a lot of suspension work, replace all the bushings and some springs, and the brakes are kind of worn out, so I'm gonna replace those as well. And front bearings, just a lot of like stuff because this van kind of got neglected and it definitely needs a lot of maintenance. Before I do all of that, I want to go ahead and smoke test the intake system and the exhaust system. So that way on the intake, I can see if there's any leaks and if I need to replace anything. This would be like the perfect time to find that out. And also on these Ford trucks like this, probably most trucks, the exhaust manifolds sometimes like to crack. So it'd be good to leak test the exhaust system as well. So that way I know if I have to spend a lot of time replacing those, because the bolts and the studs like to break when you're trying to do the exhaust manifolds. And if I were to break any of the bolts or exhaust studs, it might just be worth pulling the whole engine out to redo everything. But a really useful tool to have is a smoke machine. And that brings us to this video sponsor, which is ANCEL. They were kind enough to send me this diagnostic leak detector. This is the S3000, which is pretty nice. And I actually have a diagnostic smoke machine, but it's really basic. And this one has a bunch of like gauges and different modes and knobs and stuff. So I think it would be more useful. But anyways, let's go ahead and unbox this thing and check it out and see how it works so we can see if we have any issues on the van that need to be addressed. So these things are great for testing all kinds of stuff actually. Other than the exhaust leaks and the intake leaks, you can do all kinds of stuff like vacuum related stuff and EGR related stuff, brake booster. Also on this older van, it actually uses vacuum to control all of the heating and air conditioning stuff. So if you're having problems with that, it would be amazing to have a smoke machine like this, so you could pinpoint the problem. Also, you can use it for like light housings and even window and door seals and all kinds of stuff. Also, just a note, you're technically not supposed to use a machine like this for fuel system related stuff, because you'd basically be mixing compressed oxygen with, you know, fuel vapors and stuff like that. I mean, it might be okay, but you're technically not supposed to do that. You're supposed to use a separate machine that uses compressed nitrogen, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out here that use this type of machine for that. But you would definitely be doing that at your own risk. It's got a few specifications. It goes up to 17 PSI, gives you your output, gives you the output volume, and this works on a 12-volt battery or power supply. And it looks like it draws about 8 amps or less. So here's everything it comes with, and it's actually smaller than I originally thought it would be. More compact, the better. And it comes with a few accessories. We got a funnel to fill up the smoke liquid. Obviously, I'm gonna read all the instructions. It comes with a decent sized test fitting. This will be perfect for my exhaust. Looks like it's about 3 inches or so. Here's the outlet hose, and it comes with the smaller fitting for smaller vacuum lines and stuff like that. Here's the power cable. Got a nice little hook here so you can hang it on your hood. And it comes with a Velcro strap, and it's pretty neat. It looks like it probably holds a lot of the cables and stuff. So this thing right here is pretty cool. It expands this boot with the plug. So you can basically plug like a certain sized hole, or if it's not perfectly round, it'll kind of just form to the shape. And then the smoke input is right here and goes into whatever you're smoke testing. It's pretty cool. And it actually comes with an extra boot that you can install in case you break it. Definitely a nice little touch. So it looks like this is the top of the line smoke test machine, the S3000. They have an S2000 and S1000. I think the 1000 is like similar to the one that I had before. It doesn't have any gauges or anything, but this one's got the pressure gauge and a leak size gauge. And then this is cool, on the side, it actually will show you the level of your mineral oil. And before we even power this thing on, we should probably fill it up. And these things use mineral oil. You can find mineral oil like at the grocery store in the pharmacy section. It's pretty cheap, like $4 or $5 or so. Or you can also use baby oil. And this stuff is pretty safe. I mean, people consume this stuff for certain ailments. However, it's probably not the best thing to breathe in. So you want to try to avoid breathing it in, but it's probably not that bad. I think it can cause like pneumonia in certain people who are susceptible if you breathe a lot in. So just keep that in mind. These things do not work on that, you know, usual party smoke machine fluid. That's something completely different. Just make sure to use mineral oil or baby oil. But anyways, this is the fill cap right here. Stick the funnel in. We'll just kind of fill it up, and I kind of want the level to be halfway full. There we go. It doesn't take a lot. I do like having the little fill level sight glass because my other one didn't have it, and you kind of just had to guess and hope there was enough in there. Stick the cap back on. So here on the other side we have the connection ports, and the bottom one is the power port, the little barrel jack, and it's 12 volt DC. And then the top one is the output hose, and it just screws on. A lot of times you're probably going to just power this directly off the car battery. Obviously make sure the car's not running when you're doing leak testing. But if you're diagnosing something where this is going to be on a lot, you're probably going to want to connect a battery charger just so you don't destroy your car battery. Also, just a note, this has a 5-minute duty cycle. So it'll give you smoke for about 5 minutes, and then you have to let it cool down and start again. But right now I'm just going to be powering it off an adjustable DC power supply. I just have it set to about 12 volts. But we'll go ahead and power it on, and the air pressure light turns red, and that just means the air pressure is off. We'll go ahead and turn both things on really quick. Looks like it's pulling about 5.5 amps. And that's good because that means you can run this thing off of a lot of power stations. And a lot of the newer lithium jump starters have a 12 volt, 10 amp power supply with the barrel jack, so that would work perfectly for this. So as far as the functionality goes, when this thing has power, this little red light turns on, and this button is for air pressure only. So we'll go ahead and click on that, and it turns green, powers it on. And it's not gonna give us any smoke, but we do have air coming out of here. And if I cover up the hole, it'll start to pressurize. It's climbing. I could definitely see this coming in handy for certain things. And also, if you pressurize a system and you want to see if it holds pressure, you just turn it off and watch the pressure gauge, see if it drops. And then if I let go, it lets the pressure out. And then the other button is the smoke button, and when it's off, the light will be off. And then when we power it on, it'll turn green. And if it overheats or shuts off, it'll turn red. But it's pretty cool. It's got an overheat protection function. But anyways, let's go ahead and power that on. And we should be getting smoke before long. And also, this is the smoke flow control right here. I'm gonna open that up a little bit. Oh, you can see a little bit of smoke starting to come out of there. Yeah, it's definitely starting to make quite a bit of smoke. So this will start to pressurize as well, it looks like. It's creating quite a bit of smoke. Let's see how little we can. Oh, it's starting to slow down. It's still coming out though. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off before I fill the entire basement with smoke. There's quite a bit. Almost smells like birthday candles, slightly. Then this is the leak size gauge, and hold on, I'll go ahead and power that on again real quick. And the larger the number, the bigger the leak will be. You can see that leak size gauge will start to drop. Seems to stay right there for the maximum, but still quite useful. Now let's go do some leak tests on the van. All right guys, here we are at the van. I got pretty much everything ready. Just gonna use a power supply because we're gonna do the exhaust smoke test first. And I went ahead, came in here and took off the engine cover. I have a separate video on how to remove that. It's pretty easy to do. But it'll be interesting to see if I have any exhaust leaks throughout the whole system, especially the exhaust manifolds, because those are known to crack and start leaking. And I'd rather deal with those while I'm doing all of the engine work together, just so I can do everything at once. But let's go ahead and see if they're leaking or not. So this should actually be pretty easy to do. And since I have two tailpipes, I'm gonna just stuff an old rag in one of them. It's okay if it doesn't seal perfectly and we get a little bit of smoke coming out. We're mainly looking for smoke everywhere else. But we'll go ahead and set this up. We could use this funnel guy. Sometimes they like to fall out unless you really stuff them in there. I mean, that should work just fine. But I've never actually used one of these. And it looks like it'll fit. Give it 12 volts. And let's go ahead and turn it on. And I'm just gonna confirm smoke comes out. I do want to open this valve quite a bit, so I want a lot of smoke coming out. I just want to confirm it goes through here, and it does. Stick that in there, pump it up. Should be a good enough fit, and we'll just attach the smoke. Go ahead and power it on. It'll probably take quite a bit to start filling this exhaust system up with smoke, but in the meantime, let's take a light and start looking around underneath. And so far, so good, at least back here. I definitely want to take a look at that muffler because we do have a hole on the side of it. There's that hole on the muffler. Oh, I'm starting to see some smoke coming out of the muffler right there. But yeah, it's interesting it's not coming out of that hole yet. Definitely on both ends. You know, it definitely is leaking exhaust underneath the van, which could, you know, definitely leak into the van. I'm still surprised it's not coming out of that hole. Also, I plan on replacing this muffler with, I think it's a Walker Quiet Flow or something. It's like a pretty big sized muffler. I really don't want this van too loud because it is a big block 460. So, you know, any performance muffler on it would really make this thing a little bit too loud for my taste. Dang, I don't see anything coming out of the catalytic converter. I just have sleeves on it right now. But I also put some exhaust sealant around it because I noticed it was leaking when I swapped that thing out and stole the original catalytic converter, but passes emissions just fine. Anyways, let's go in here, and I'm really hoping that these exhaust manifolds are not leaking. It doesn't sound like they are. So far, so good. I did put new hardware on the downpipes. I mean, it's rusty, but it's not really bad. I do have a theory of why the exhaust manifolds like to crack on these trucks. Some people say it's like water from the road splashing up onto there, like in heavy rains and stuff like that. But my theory is that these do not have a flex pipe. So as the engine is like rocking back and forth when you're driving, it basically moves the whole exhaust system. And it's a lot of pressure on those exhaust manifolds because it's all rigid all the way to the back. But dang, still not seeing anything. And I am going to weld a little flex pipe when I redo the entire exhaust system from the downpipe back. But anyways, let's check the downpipe area a little bit better. And I don't see any smoke rolling out there. Need a rear main seal. I'm going to be doing that with everything else. It's probably never been replaced. This vehicle is almost as old as I am. I'm going to give it a few more minutes though. After 5 minutes, this thing supposedly shuts off. and it is getting a little warm. I don't know if it shuts off just after 5 minutes or if it gets too hot and then it shuts it off. No idea. Check that oil level. Oil level is good, and you can see all the smoke accumulating in the chamber. But I'm just gonna keep an eye on these exhaust manifolds because that's the main thing I want to know about. Like, I don't see any smoke coming out. So I just heard a click and it turned from green to red, means it's in protection mode. So yeah, it lasted about 5 minutes and I didn't see any smoke come out of those manifolds. I'm definitely happy about that, but it's definitely a super good way to figure out if you got exhaust leaks. But this thing is definitely nice for finding exhaust leaks. I would have never guessed it was leaking around the muffler. Also, I probably did about 7 to 8 minutes of smoke testing, and you can see we're like at the minimum. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill it up, and I love having that sight glass so we don't just end up running this thing dry. Next, let's go ahead and smoke test the intake. And I did have a system 2 lean fault, but it was a fuel delivery issue, not an intake leak problem. Because the fuel trims are only going high positive under load and higher RPM. And usually an intake leak will be high positive when it's just at idle. And my fuel trims are looking pretty darn good, so I don't suspect I'm gonna see an intake leak. However, I did have a cracking vacuum hose on the rear. I don't think it was cracked all the way through until I started messing with it, but I went ahead and just replaced that a while back. But now let's go ahead and I'll just hook this up to the battery. Make sure to hook it up correctly, positive to positive, negative to negative. We got the powered on light. And I actually already took this off, but the vacuum hose to the brake booster is a really good place to hook up a smoke machine. Make sure to do it on the engine side of the one-way valve, or else smoke isn't going to be going anywhere into the intake. Let's just make sure we're getting smoke. It is a little breezy out here, which is not ideal, but I think it'll be okay. Definitely have to give it maybe like 30 seconds or so. There we go, starting to get smoke. And let's go ahead and just hook it up. Make sure it's a nice little seal around there. And we'll just let that intake fill up with smoke. Take a look for any smoke coming out. Here's that hose that was cracking. That thing was probably just about to start leaking. Also, with that brake booster vacuum line, we're putting smoke into the engine side of the throttle body. Eventually, the smoke will probably work its way out into the intake system in front of the throttle body, but it may take a little bit of time for that. But so far, I'm not seeing any smoke at all. Usually it starts coming out pretty quick if we have a vacuum leak, but it makes sense that we're not seeing any because my fuel trims are looking so good at idle. I also did break one of these little lines for the heating and air conditioning system, but I fixed it with a little vacuum hose. It's kind of hard to see. I did that when I was changing the spark plugs. Still no vacuum leaks. It's looking good. Let's go back up front. And you can see we're starting to get a little smoke coming out of the air filter box. And that's pretty good because that means the whole thing is filled up with smoke really well and it's pushing past the throttle body. But so far, this is a really solid looking intake system, which is pretty cool because this thing is so old. And still no leaks in here. All the vacuum hoses, evap system. Even more smoke out of there now, which is perfectly fine. But anyways, go ahead and shut that off so I don't destroy the battery. I'll probably put the battery on charge for a little while. Well guys, so far I'm pretty happy with this ANCEL S3000 diagnostic leak smoke detector. I really can't say a lot bad about it, except maybe the little smoke adjustment knob didn't really seem to do a whole lot. But other than that, I like the pressure gauge. I really like the sight glass on the side. I like how you can just use pressure without smoke. Definitely gives you a lot of diagnostic options with this. Also, the only downside to these is they are pretty pricey, but if you guys are interested in checking it out, I'll leave a link down in the description below. Definitely not a tool most people would use a lot, unless you're a mechanic and you do diagnostic stuff every day. This thing would be awesome if you were a mobile mechanic because it's just so compact and easy to bring with you. But even though it probably won't get used a whole lot, I will say they definitely come in handy when you do need one or you're trying to diagnose something. Also, if I have any issues with it in the future, I'll be sure to make a comment and pin it down in the comments below, just so you guys know. Also, I'll probably do a quick video on how to smoke test the TW200 after the carburetor, because there's this little rubber boot that sometimes cracks, and it actually has a diagnostic port where you could connect a smoke machine like that. But that'll be on my motorcycle channel a little bit later on. But anyways, I'm super happy there's no leaking on the exhaust manifolds, and I don't have to worry about that yet. And it was pretty cool to see how it was leaking around the muffler there. Something like that would definitely be hard to find if you didn't have a way to smoke test the exhaust. But anyways, guys, I hope you found this video useful. I'm gonna throw the cover back on, and I have a lot of work to do to this van this summer. I'm gonna do a lot of mechanical, and I still got some paint work I'm dealing with. But anyways, I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.